Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
All right, welcome to the Side Action, episode 7 of Season 5. My name is Jim Weglars, a.k.a. Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, a.k.a. Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter and Side Action Podcast on Instagram. So actually, I see you're sporting the Circa sports hat. Looks good. Actually, that sharp hat. I mean, we don't have the Circa Million hat this year, but at least you bought that. You bought that when we were in March Madness, right?
Yeah, it was a March purchase, and I found it deep in the closet this morning as I was getting out some of my winter gear, so I thought I would rock it today.
Yeah, I like it.
Thank you.
So how's your week been? We were a little bit delayed. I guess you had to do some things. Big research, though. I know you're ready now.
Yeah, I got some research in. My week has been all off schedule because, as you know, on Sunday morning I went to New Orleans for a wastewater conference for work. Mm-hmm. And was there in the French Quarter Sunday through Wednesday. And usually those are my couple prep days, and I got in very little prep with client dinners and appreciation events and a few trips to the dice table at Harrah's and whatnot. So got home Wednesday and then had to catch up on real work. And then, of course, you went to the Bears game last night, so here we are Friday recording.
You're burying the lead. I tried to lead you into that. You had the dice. You rolled all the numbers. What was it, Tuesday night?
Yeah, late Tuesday night. Rolled them all. ATS, all tall, small.
That's right.
And it was a good night. It was a $50 table. The two quarter tables were filled up, and one of them was crapless. So I had to go to the $50 table, and that turned out okay.
Yeah. Take that money from Harrah's. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
That's the way to go. Yeah, I went to the Bears game last night. As most of you know who watched it, was rough one. That's why my voice is so rough. I was screaming so hard at them. Mm-hmm. I mean, Justin Fields doing his best. He's really a better runner than passer, but he did have some passes. Man, he's running for his life action. I mean, you can see it. As soon as he snaps the ball, he's either hit or he's rolling out. I had a couple props on the game. We were kind of discussing them. Some of them hit, some of them didn't. That last drive did help me in getting his prop. I did Brian Robinson, anytime touchdown, and 49.5 rushing. He had those, so that was
nice.
Good.
Nice.
I really wanted the Bears to get that win because I had them +1 in the, just in the game, and it was so close. It came down to the half-yard line there. So, what are you gonna do? They stink. Washington, by the way, 12-7, another bad Thursday night, but Washington is garbage, and they are terrible. So.
Yeah. The under was a no-doubter last night.
No doubt.
Aided a little bit by the weather, but I think it was the offenses too.
Yeah, and no touchdown the first half. That paid out as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm.
And I will mention the Shockers did win again. We won play the second best team, quote unquote. We beat them 39-0. So this week we do not have our superstar quarterback. So my cousin's gonna have to step in and play quarterback for the first time this year. And this team's supposed to be pretty good too. So hey, look out, everybody. The line might be high, but there's probably an adjustment, the Clay adjustment, which the quarterback is probably. It's got to be at least a touchdown, if not 2 touchdown difference.
Yeah, that's quite a big drop-off.
That's right. Well, let's go into the NFL Week 5 review here. A little bit, obviously it was last week. Lots of things happened, but, we're always pushing for the next week. But the big news is Matt Rule. Matt Rule, the first coach to be fired. We knew he was going to be fired. We should have bet on that in action. Mm-hmm. But once he lost that game in Carolina, Baker Mayfield was garbage again. So they did not do well for us in the contest against the 49ers. And Mayfield, who says he's hurt, I'm sure he is actually hurt, but I think he just, maybe sick of getting beat up and not playing well. So it's the P.J. Walker era for Carolina.
Yeah, at least for 1 week. I know that Darnold is close to his return, so it does look like it's going to be P.J. Walker out there this weekend against the Rams. And, of course, Matt Rule was probably neck and neck with Frank Reich, really. If they had won last Thursday night, I think the Colts might have canned Frank Reich. So It was a barn burner in that respect.
It was a barn burner. Enter Steve Wilkes, who coached for 1 year. He was the predecessor to Cliff Kingsbury, I believe, in Arizona.
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
raw deal, just one and done, and they got rid of him, which maybe they regret. We'll see how he does. We'll see what happens. So some injuries, that came up last week, some bigger ones. Baltimore still can't keep these guys healthy. Marcus Williams, the safety, dislocated wrist, he's on IR, so that hurts that pass defense a little bit. Miami went
Yeah.
down. We'll talk about that game, right? Yeah. They actually went down in their game against the Jets. I don't know if I put it on the list, but they actually lost that game pretty badly against the Jets. Teddy Bridgewater gets knocked out in the first quarter with a concussion, neck injury, and enter in Skylar Thompson, who is expected to start this week, which we'll talk about.
Hmm.
Then you got Kyle
Yeah.
Pitts, your guy Kyle Pitts. I don't know if he's going to play, but Atlanta, they haven't done much with him this year, but he has collected almost all the coverage in the Atlanta game. So Kyle Pitts, a tight end, a hamstring. I think he's not going to play, but I guess I got to check the injury report.
Yeah, I think both him and Drake London are questionable, but trending towards playing. So both of them certainly names to monitor as they go up against San Francisco on Sunday.
Yeah, and San Francisco did get a bad injury in Emmanuel Mosley. The cornerback. He tore his ACL. He's out for the season, so maybe they won't be quite as stout. We'll talk about them a little bit later on. That defense has been almost historic. And then Seattle's Rashad Penny, he's out with a leg injury, so enter in Kenneth Walker at running back there.
Yeah, and I think Penny's out for the year,
Oh,
right?
really?
That injury is going to require surgery to keep him out for the rest of the season.
There you go. So short-lived. He had a couple good games there.
Yeah.
Reviewing the games themselves, you already alluded to the Colts. They basically had a miracle win. This was an awful game last Thursday night, not last night, a week ago, where neither team scored a touchdown. Denver continues to kind of befuddle everybody because they can't score, especially in the red zone. And the Colts end up winning, covering the 3.5 and winning outright. And Denver, I don't know what to say. I mean, between Russell Wilson playing like crap and Hackett coaching, Denver's just they're a mess.
Yeah. Nathaniel Hackett went into my pocketbook a little bit on Thursday night. I had Denver a lot of ways and a couple of money line parlays and Denver -3, which I felt was extremely good about there going into the end of the fourth quarter. With them coming towards the 2-minute warning, all he had to do was run the ball and kick a field goal, and surely they would have come out victorious because I didn't think there was any chance that Matt Ryan and the Colts were going to come down and score a touchdown.
Yeah, and it was a weird game, but it was a bad decision there. And I mean, for your team, the Colts, as you mentioned, Reich could have been fired. I think Matt Ryan is pretty washed, but what is he doing? And he's getting crushed every play. I mean,
Yeah.
that offensive line, which used to be the hallmark of this team, is gone. I'm not really sure what's going on, but he actually played pretty tough. I mean, he doesn't have the zip on his arm, but he stood in there and got those 2 field goal drives to basically tie and then win the game. So I give him some credit.
Yeah, I think the Indianapolis offense has to be put on the offensive line right now. They're the unit that is performing way below expectations and dragging them down.
Right. Now in a contest, we had some picks that, it was kind of a tough week for us, but, starting off in London, the Pack up 17-3, pulling out the playbook, doing reverses and pitch back throws and all this kind of stuff, looking great, but they forgot to score in the second half. And give Dable credit. He's got this team who we talked about it last week. That's why we picked against them. Very undermanned. No receivers, but your guy Danny Dimes is playing well. Saquon Barkley's had a massive comeback year, and they win 27-22, so covering that 8.5 spread easily. And the Giants are 4-1.
Yeah, crazy. I missed most of this game traveling on Sunday morning, but saw the box score, and I couldn't believe that the Packers blew that lead.
Yeah, it was rough. I mean, I didn't mention this at the top, but one of my buddies ran the marathon. Jimmy Dell, he broke his PR, so I was kind of running all over checking my phone, but couldn't watch games till the afternoon. But yeah, it was a rough one. Then this one was a weird game. The Browns were playing the Chargers, and we had the Browns +2, which really was the best number, I suppose, in the end, because I think it dropped to 1.5 by game time, if I'm not mistaken. So the Chargers was kind of a back and forth game. The Browns were up by 14, then Chargers rolled back, and a lot of points were being scored. And Brandon Staley did it again for the Chargers, and this dude loves to go for 4th down, midfield, 4th and 2, 4th and 3, decided to throw the ball. on his side of the field, basically gave the Browns a chance to win the game when they were up 30-28. And then the kid from the Browns finally misses a field goal, and we ended up on a push in the contest. But I think if you had the Chargers, you did cover in the end on the closing number.
Yeah, good point. I think you're right. Most people, if they knew what they were doing, was certainly we should have won that game with either the Browns 2.5 earlier in the week or the Chargers under that 2-point margin.
Right. Weird. The Patriots did what we thought they'd do. They came out and destroyed your new Detroit Lions over there, 29-0. I know the Lions got in there early into the red zone, but they clearly kind of got just pummeled in this game. And your guy, Bailey Zappi, the Zappi hour, he played well. They also ran all over him. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson had 160 yards rushing or something en route to this easy cover at the 3.5.
Yeah, and I think that Belichick just has a way with some quarterbacks in this league and offensive schemes. I mean, we've seen him multiple occasions beat up on Jared Goff-led offenses, and I think there's a few other quarterbacks in the league where he has similar numbers against, and guys that he knows. Like this week, going up against Jacoby Brissett, you have to expect he's going to have a game plan to shut down that Browns offense.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. We talked about Carolina already. They were 6.5-point dogs in that game at home. They ended up losing 37-15. Not much to say there, but the pick six was the one. I mean, the game was kind of close. I think it was 17-15 or something, or 17, around that. And then he throws that terrible pick six again. I mean, Baker sucks, so we'll move on. But that was a loss for us. But the Cowboys, and we talked about this too. The Cowboys were 5-point dogs on the road, and they really dominate the Rams from start to finish. They start off with a defensive score, then a blocked punt, and really, besides that Cooper Kupp big play for the Rams, they did nothing in this game against this great defense now. And the Cowboys won 22-10, and Cooper Rush still undefeated, 5-0 as a starter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, relatively even in the box score. The Cowboys' rush defense was awesome, though. Only gave up 3 rushing yards to the Rams, and I think it's pretty clear that either McVay refuses to run or they just can't, or maybe a combination of both, but something that I'm going to look for going forward when matching up against the Rams games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's up with that offensive line, but they have not – it's not the same one as a year ago or 2 years ago. 2 of the marquee games we'll just mention. Baltimore played Cincinnati. This was another very tight game, low-scoring game, one of these primetime games that didn't come through. Baltimore was a 3.5-point favorite in this one and didn't cover. They did get the win, though, and it was kind of some unique plays by Cincinnati in the red zone when they were running some weird stuff instead of just running Mixon or anything. So they end up losing the game, meaning the Bengals, but they do get the money in this one. So interesting game.
Yeah, another dead under. Sunday Night Football, divisional rivalry. That one was I saw coming, but I mean the Bengals, that was a huge drive coming down the stretch. I had to give Burrow a lot of credit for bringing them down and scoring that touchdown because the cover looked bleak until they made that move, and then you always knew that Tucker was going to come back and hit the game-winning field goal. So it was a cool ending.
And even though the Ravens won, this was the third game this season that they've blown a double-digit lead, right? So they were up, I think it was 20-10 or
yeah, 10-0 at one point.
Yeah, so they had a chance, but they did win the game this time, so that's good for Harbaugh and the crew. And then Monday night was kind of the opposite story. We finally got a high-scoring game in this one. The Chiefs were playing the Raiders, and the Chiefs were a 7-point favorite at home. I tried to talk into this one, and it was hard to do. I had lots of metrics, and it just didn't work because the Chiefs do own the Raiders in general, straight up, but the Raiders came out guns a-blazing. They were up 17-0, but the Chiefs roared back, took the lead, were up, really had this game in hand, and then the Raiders made a huge play, that awesome play to Adams down the middle from Carr, America's sweetheart quarterback for our proxy. But they went for 2 with 4:25 left to win, and I get they couldn't stop the Chiefs at that point, but I don't know. I just would kick the extra point and see what happens, but Travis Kelce, 4 touchdowns in the red zone. Only 25 yards receiving, 4 TDs.
That's a pretty incredible stat line. I completely missed this game, but did I read correctly that there was like a minute left when the Raiders went for 2? So even if they score there, I mean, that means you're going to come back.
25 seconds.
Oh, okay. All right, even more.
Yes. That's why it was baffling. It wasn't like the end of the game. I mean, They got
Yeah.
the ball back with 1:20. So they actually stopped the Chiefs on the subsequent drive. They
Okay.
gave up a first down, then they stopped the Chiefs, and then they had a chance. Adams actually, he kind of bobbled the ball on the sideline. Otherwise, they probably would have been in field goal range because Carlson's been money. But he
Hmm.
bobbled it, and then he couldn't drag his second foot, after the actual catch. And then the very next play on fourth down, Renfro and Adams collided on the route. So, Curtis threw it up there because he was throwing to where Adams was going to be, but they collided, so there was no chance. So they ended up losing the game, outright. But they did cover the number, final score 30-29.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had the Chiefs in a bunch of teasers, which all pushed.
Okay.
Coincidentally, I knew this, but I didn't quite pick it out until conclusion of that Monday night game into Tuesday morning, really. If you bet on a teaser at most books, U.S. shops, and one of the legs pushes, despite the outcome in the other game, it's a push regardless. So I
Oh,
lucked out where I actually had the Packers in a bunch of teasers this weekend, which all went up in flames, but I got one of them resurrected because of that push
really?
on the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. So I got some money back miraculously.
That's weird. I guess you got to read the
Yeah.
fine print. I'm shocked that
Hmm.
I'd figured the only way you get a push is if both of them push, but okay. Or one of them wins, one of
Yep.
them pushes, but interesting. Well, that's good.
Yeah, because there's no such thing as a one-leg
Yeah.
teaser, essentially, is what it comes down to. If one of the games pushes that's void, then it's a one-leg teaser. The whole teaser is void completely.
I'm sure other books you got to check probably just make you lose that. I guess you got to double check, but that's good. It's good for you.
Hmm. Yeah.
This week was a big week for the underdogs again. Action. It's kind of like week one. It was 10-6 my count for the underdogs, and then the unders 9-7 again. But this week was a comeback for the spread. We had 5 games that were impacted by the spread, where favorites won but did not cover, and that bumped the percentage back up a little bit to
Hmm.
16.25% of the season. But almost a third of the games were impacted by the spread this week, so we'll see if that trend continues.
Got to figure that's an aberration,
Yeah,
right? Historically, looking at this the last couple seasons, it's been pick the winner.
exactly.
So I expect that will reoccur.
All right, in week 6, you've got 4 teams on bye. Your local Lions, the Titans, Texans, and the Raiders. Nothing superstar there, but it's bye weeks now. We got to keep that in mind for our picks. There'll be less games, only 14 to pick from this week. You've already taken off the Bears game, so it's only 13 for us.
Hmm.
Let's start with the 49ers in Atlanta. 49ers stayed out there on the East Coast. I think they stayed in West Virginia, which is I don't know where they stayed, at Biltmore or something. They stayed at some place in West Virginia so they don't fly back and forth across the country. They opened as a 4.5 point favorite. It's the total at 41 to open. Now it's 44.5 for the total, up to 5.5 in the contest. I saw 5 today, more or less, in the market. I think this is going to be my survivor pick. It's a little risky because it's a tough week,
Mm.
but I've already burned, the Rams and the Packers. So Atlanta is the only team this year that's been unbeaten against the spread. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that's right. 5-0.
So what do you think about this one? Is this 5.5 is a pretty big number? They're home. They obviously came off a tough loss. They actually covered in the game against the Bucks, and they had a chance. That we didn't even talk about the bad roughing the passer penalty. But do you think
Mm-hmm.
the Falcons have some fight to take out this team?
Maybe. I mean, they are 5-0 against the spread, as you mentioned, but to me, that number in itself leads me to believe that there's probably some value on the other side because I think it's pretty predictable that they're not going to remain undefeated against the spread,
Right.
the Falcons, that is. But I mean, the Niners have some defensive injuries. I'm looking here that Bosa is not going to return, and Eric Armstead and a few other defenders are looking like they're going to be out this
Okay.
week. So that might be a little bit impactful to their defensive prowess because they are ranked number 1 defensively, and their ability to rush the quarterback is third ranked. And I don't think that the Falcons have much of an offensive line to protect Mariota back there. So I definitely would be leaning to the
Hmm.
Niners. And, looking back over the last couple seasons, they've done this back-to-back East Coast trip 4 times now, and they've stayed over in this place in West Virginia all 4 times. And in those second games, they're 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread, winning by almost 15 points a game and 13 points above the ATS margin.
Wow.
Meaning they're beating the odds makers' expectations by an average of 13 points on these second legs of back-to-backs.
Wow.
And to me, that's a trend that I would like to bet on continuing. And so I like the Niners.
Yeah, me too. I think that's the right way to go. I mean, I didn't know about the Bosa injury, but this defense is playing historically well. I don't know if you've heard some of the stats. They're in rarefied air, like, top 5 all time right now in both scoring and yardage against. So I love the way they're playing. Jimmy G, the thing about, there was a little bit of instability there, of course, after, that terrible game when they played on, when they couldn't score, I guess, against Denver. But now they're comfortable, right? They're figuring it out. They know how to do the play action game. And against inferior defenses, I think they're going to be really good. And this is one of them for the Falcons. So I think we put green on the 49ers. I mean, they're going to be my survivor pick, like I said. So I'm okay with that if we go there.
Yeah, and I do stand corrected. Looking at the injury report, Bosa got in a light practice today.
Okay.
So definitely someone that we'll want to check on tomorrow and see if there's any game update status on him.
Got it. Okay. All right, second game, Minnesota goes down to Miami. Minnesota opens as a 3-point favorite on the road, 45-point total. It's 3.5 in the contest. The total's ticked up to 45.5. You've obviously got the third string quarterback for the Dolphins. That's maybe why there's a little bit of movement to the Finns at home. Are usually really good at home because of the weather thing. The Vikings barely covered against the Bears last week. Actually, they didn't cover against the Bears last week. They actually blew a big lead. They kind of followed that trend of the London teams, kind of wilting in the fourth quarter. I don't like the hook, but I probably would lean to the Vikings here. I know you probably like the Finns there, but I don't know if I can get on board with the third string quarterback.
Yeah, I think there's value on the Dolphins here. I know that Skylar Thompson is kind of an unknown, but we at least have almost a full game of data now, and he played okay, 19 of 33 for 166 pass yards in relief of Teddy Covers. Teddy concussed now, and it's defensively where I think that Miami is going to be able to put. I mean, their pass defense is last. Okay, there's no getting around that. But
Right.
The Vikings haven't really been passing the ball outside of Week 1 versus the Packers. They've been reliant on that run game behind Dalvin Cook and Madison. And so the Dolphins' run defense is actually really good, 4th ranked. So I think that they'll be able to hold their own on that side of the ball. And then on the other side, the Vikings' defense is near the bottom, 28th ranked and 26th against the pass. So if Hill plays, I know that Hill has an injury that he's nursing as well. So that's definitely the name I wanted to monitor before this game kicks off Sunday.
Well, I definitely want to put a very important handicap here. Apparently, they're replacing the ping pong table.
Yeah,
That's
I
very
saw that
important. That may be a factor. Maybe they focus on the game. Well, here's what I'll tell you. I've got the Vikings as a 2-point favorite on the road.
All right.
1.5 is the difference. That's where the value. I figure that's probably built in with the backup quarterback. We get over the key number 3. Do you think the quarterback is worth 1.5 or not?
From Teddy to
Yeah.
Thompson? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough call.
Well,
I really don't know much about Skylar Thompson, so I think that perhaps we should just
yeah, I
remain
feel
on
a
task.
stay away is a good call there.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. The Ravens go to the Giants. Ravens open as a 3-point favorite. Now they're up to 5.5. 44.5 point total to 45. Look, the Giants have. I keep saying this every week. We keep saying it. They are overachieving. They're the Titans of 2022, right? They shouldn't be winning these games, but they are. It is coaching. They're tight games, and they're making good plays. The Ravens have blown a lot of stuff. Like, on paper, it seems like the Giants would be the easy pick here, plus 5.5. But you also have to factor in they're coming back home from the London trip, which always seems to weary those legs in the second half of the teams that don't take the bye. So I'm happy to stay away from this game action, but I don't know, man. It's a tough one. 5.5 is a juicy number for a home team.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like there's a little bit of value on them. I think that should be about 5.5 on a neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, of course, in New York, but the return from London is certainly something that gives me pause. Although the Saints played okay last week.
They did.
The Vikings faltered, obviously, but the Saints turned it into overdrive in the second half, probably aided by playing against the Seattle Seahawks defense and Taysom Hill going out of his
Jeez,
mind.
yeah.
But uh, I don't know. Then the line kind of feels like a trap to me.
Mhm.
It's almost like begging us to take the Giants, and that gives me some pause. And I actually think there might be some value on the other side here with the
Okay.
Ravens.
Well, let's highlight the Ravens yellow then, if you think that, because I don't want to jump on board, with the Team Giants, then
hmm
they falter. But we can also stay away from it. Like I said, it's not a problem
Yeah, I think it would be a little bit of a zig when the market zags kind of
yeah,
move too, going on the
for
Ravens.
sure. Next one's interesting. 1 o'clock spot. The Jets on the Packers. The Packers, similar situation, coming home, obviously losing that game in London, which was a bad look. Packers open as a 7-point favorite. They're still a seven in the contest. I think I'm seeing them 7.5 in the market now. But the Jets obviously played well last week. I'm sorry, the total is 43.5 on the opener, 45 now. They ran the ball really well. Brees Hall ran all over them, all over Miami. You
hmm
mentioned that
hmm
Miami's run defense was okay before last week, I guess, and the Packers can't stop the run. So that's kind
Yep.
of the main handicap here. Is this another trap situation? I mean, the Pack couldn't cover against the Pats, which are a better defense than the Jets. But I don't know that I think the Jets can run the ball just as good as the Pats. Wilson seems to have injected some life into this offense a little bit. I'd have to be on the Jets here. I don't know. It's weird though. Weird to go against a Pack at home. They usually cover a lot of games there.
Yeah, I mean, despite what the numbers tell me, eighth ranked DVOA offensively for the Packers and third running attack. I guess that's probably a reasonable number, but it's the passing attack that just hasn't gotten anywhere this year behind
Right.
Rodgers and those wide receivers, and they just don't seem like the same Green Bay Packers of old. Um, 2 weeks ago, remember, they faltered against New England, almost lost that
So
game, and then they did lose last week in London. And I think this is a trend that's brewing. And you couple that with the fact that how awesome the Jets offense has been playing the last 2 weeks now. Remember, the only 2 weeks of data that we have was Zach Wilson playing quarterback. And I think that their numbers are a little bit skewed because of the Joe Flacco
right.
games. And so I really think that there's a ton of value on the Jets here getting seven. I wish the hook was there like the current
Yeah.
market
So
has, but I think that the Circa operators are telling us something with that.
right. Well, let's put at least a yellow on the Jets, or if you want to go green, I'm okay with it because it's on my list. So
Mean Green Jets, let's do it.
Jets, we're back on the Jets. I know you're really happy about that. All right, so let's go. Patriots against the Browns. Still in the 1 o'clock window. Cleveland opens as a 3-point favorite at home, 43-point total. It's down to 2.5 now for the Browns. I know you said that you know your guy Belichick will probably have something for Brissett and stopping this running attack. I don't know. Can Zappy Hour go 3 weeks in a row here? Because Mac Jones is not going to play, right?
I have heard reports that he's been getting in light practices, which he has been the last couple of weeks, but I still don't think that he's going to be out there this week. I don't think there's any reason for the Patriots to rush him back until he's fully healthy because I do think they believe he's the quarterback of the future. And so I think it's going to be Zappy Hour.
Happy hour again. Well, this is one of my picks for the Browns. I've got this line in a bigger line, but I'm always afraid because Belichick as an underdog is always dicey there. So are you going to make the case for New England here?
Yeah, indeed. It's my whole handicap is based on the Browns' terrible run defense,
Yeah.
32nd ranked against the run and 32nd ranked defensive line stats versus number three ranked New England Patriots on their offensive line. And I think that Belichick is going to have a game plan that includes a lot of Ramondre Stevenson again. And on the other side, I think that he knows Jacoby Brissett very well from having him on his team in New England for so many years. And I think that him and Son will have something lined up for the Browns offensively. And so I like the Patriots here getting 2.5.
I mean, Eckler did get 173 yards rushing against last week, so I get it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I understand this. It's the same thing with the Jets against the Packers. There's certain these teams that can't stop the run, and until they stop it, they're just going to be exploited every single week. Okay, let's put a yellow on the Pats. I
All
can
right.
probably get on board
All right.
again. We've been good to us 2 weeks in a row. You can't keep riding the hot streak,
True.
right?
That's true. We were on them both the last 2 weeks as
Mm,
well. Zappy hour.
happy hour. All right, let's go to the next 1 o'clock window. That's the Jags against the Colts. I know it's really close to your heart. I know you don't bet with your heart, but there's got to be some pain there. The Colts open as a 1 point favorite at home, 41.5 point total. It's 2.5 in the contest, and 42 point total. I think the market is around that 2.5 now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this is tough action. All the numbers tell me the Jags, in terms of taking them. I wrote in the article for the Wegs Pool this week, you have to take the Colts. It's a Colts last stand. I know they said that last week too, and they won. You didn't follow me. But
Okay.
but I mean, God, like, are they really going to lose? I mean, the Jags defensive line is pretty good, so maybe that's the whole thing. I'm assuming Taylor's not playing again.
Mm-hmm.
So is it the Jags or pass here?
I think it has to be. I'm just I can't get beyond the whole swath of red that I see on my spreadsheet here around the Colts offense.
Yep.
Let me just run this off for you. 32nd ranked DVOA offense, 32nd ranked pass offense, 32nd ranked run offense, and 31st offensive line running the football. And on the flip side, the Jaguars' defense has been great this season. They scored 0 points in Jacksonville. I don't see how they're going to get to 14 in this game,
Right.
and so I can't lay a number with an offense that can't score. And I think, to be honest, I think it's probably a pass because I agree with you. I think it lines up nicely in terms of a spot,
Mm.
but for me, it's under all day,
Yeah.
under first half, under full game, 42 points. I don't see how either of these teams are going to score a lot.
Right. I mean, the one thing I will say in the last 2 weeks, Trevor Lawrence has turned the ball over 7 times. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that's what's going to keep Colts in the game. And but I'm telling you, not just on the red that you see. I'm looking at the Jags should be favored in this game. I don't understand why they're not favored in
Yeah.
this game. So I'm happy to stay away because it just feels like, the Admiral Akbar, it's a trap. I mean, it just feels like a
Mm-hmm.
trap game. Like everybody's should take the Jags. Numerically, it's just if you look at the names on the jersey from last year or 2 years ago, you take the Colts, but it's not the way it should be. So let's stay.
Yeah, and there is some strength of schedule in those metrics
True.
without a doubt. Jacksonville's 29th ranked schedule, and the Colts have played 11th toughest schedule. So I mean, I think that those two numbers are going to find their level a little bit, but I'm happy to sit back and
And we
watch.
didn't mention, I put it on there, but I'm going to mention it now. The Texans beat the Jags for the ninth straight time last week again.
Hmm. Yeah, you
I
called it.
know it's just a weird matchup thing. All right, let's go to the next one. Cincinnati at the Saints. This game opened as a pick, which is interesting. And I'm not sure if that was influenced by who was playing quarterback. I'm not sure, but Cincinnati's now a 1.5 point favorite in the contest on the road. The total was 44.5. Now it's 43.5. Let's see. I think the market's even more to Cincinnati now, isn't it? It's 2.5.
Bengals 2.5 minus 120, 2.5. There's a 3 at DraftKings, so definitely looks to be trending in that
Yeah,
direction.
so let's talk about that and why. So it was Andy Dalton last week. It's been Andy Dalton for 2 weeks, right? So Winston's not
Hmm.
returning. I don't know if Kamara's playing. Obviously, Taysom Hill was the one, as you mentioned, they exploded, but it was mainly because Taysom Hill had, 100 plus yards rushing,
Yeah.
doing his thing, which he's not going to do again. So, my numbers do have, originally when the line was where it was, I said, okay, this is right on 1.5, right? Now it's at 2.5. So there's like the market's telling you that the 1.5 is a deal, right? But I don't know why it's moving so far, I guess. Do you have any idea?
I think it's all hinging on the injury reports for the New Orleans Saints. Chris Olave got concussed in the corner of the end
Right.
zone, which they called a touchdown. Curiously, I don't. I was throwing dice at the time, so I didn't really follow it. But I looked up and they called it a
Yeah.
touchdown. Anyway, he's presumably going to be out, although it says he's questionable here on my map here. Full practice today. That's strange. Anyway, Michael Thomas is going to be out. Jarvis Landry is going to be out. And I think that you're seeing some cluster injuries there from the receiving
Right.
core. And I also have a hunch that Jameis Winston might actually be in line to play this weekend, which I think the market is telling us is going to be a downgrade from the way that the Red Rifle has been playing the last 2 weeks,
Interesting.
honestly.
Interesting. So is there value on the Bengals then? Because, it seems like the market, if they're the contest anyway, who pays attention to lines, I'm sure will take this because you're getting a 1 point value on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. Their offense has just not been good so far this season. It's been against a very tough strength of
Yes.
schedule, undoubtedly, but they're 25th ranked offensively, and the run offense is 28th ranked, not getting much done through the air. I think that Burrow is getting some happy feet back
Hmm.
there, and he's been under tons of pressure. They've allowed 19 sacks already
Right.
through 5 games, and that is just not a good recipe for offensive success. So going against that Saints defense, I think they're going to see a ton of pressure as well this weekend, and I'm not sure I could get there and back Cincinnati
And
either.
that's okay. We can stay away. I don't think the Saints rarely lose 2 games in a row at home. They just don't. Even
Mm-hmm.
though
True.
this isn't the same old Saints, with Drew Brees and stuff. But let's stay away.
They did win. They did come back and win
Oh,
though,
that's true. They won last week. That's
against
my bad.
Seattle. It was quite an
It's
entertaining
back
game,
and
but
forth. I mean, Gino's
yeah,
cooking. We can talk about that in a minute. But yeah, he's been cooking. So
yeah.
okay, let's skip.
I think it's pass.
We've got the Bucks going to the Steelers. The Steelers obviously got trounced. We should have stuck with the Bills there. You're right. The Bills just destroyed the Kenny Pickett and the gang. And so now they come home. The Steelers come home and they're 8 point dogs at home. 43.5 point total. In the contest, it's 8. 45 point total. I see 9.5 in the market. So
Mm-hmm.
supposedly value to the Bucks. Um, Originally, when I had the deal, I had it at 8. So I kind of nailed that initial spread. But they're really betting against the Steelers. This is a classic Tomlin spot, right? At home, getting
Yeah,
points.
it is.
I think actually, and I'm sorry to pump up Kenny Pickett every time because he was on the fantasy team. I actually played him last week, but I dropped him this week. I have to
Uh-oh.
win a game here, but he didn't play that bad. He had 350 yards. They just couldn't get the damn end zone. That Bills scoring defense is so good. They couldn't run the ball. That was big. So you don't expect them to run the ball against the Bucks either, but Pickett's going to chuck it. He's going to chuck it. He's a chucker.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the way Pickens is playing for him, the rookie, and I don't know. Getting inside that number seems realistic.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you got to figure it's going to be a low-scoring game. I mean, what's the total now in the market? Um, yeah, 46. Um, but the Bucks offensively are getting
Yeah,
healthier. Yeah, they came out pretty hot against Atlanta, although they didn't score in the second half, which was surprising. Um, but it's tough for me to back the Steelers without their playmakers on defense in the
yeah.
lineup. Fitzpatrick is out designation. I don't think that Watt is going to be back out there, and without those two guys, it's hard for me to put money behind
We
them.
can pass. We can pass. I mean, that's clearly, if you want to get another survivor pick, Bucks are a good choice.
Mm,
But I had them last week as you did already. So,
same, yeah.
but I hate back the
It
road
looks
teams,
like
but
Freiermuth is going to be out, and Deontay Johnson's on the injury report too. So without weapons for Pickett, it's just tough. I don't expect they're going to be able to run the ball effectively either against the Bucks, and perhaps Pickett could have some success through the air. But are you willing to bank on that either? Are
not
you
really.
thinking they just kind of keep it within the number in a low scoring game,
Exactly.
lose by
Yeah,
7?
it's gonna be like week 1 or week, when they. I mean, last week, you know what the Bills do? They throttle you. It's so funny. We
Yeah,
talked about this and then we backed off. I don't remember sure why we did that exactly. Maybe some injuries for the
yeah,
Bills,
secondary.
but God, they just kept putting the foot on the throat. They scored another touchdown late. It was like, I'm like, oh my God. I mean, they beat them soundly. No touchdowns. It was 38-3. I mean, like, just kept scoring, pouring it on. So. All right, let's go to the next one. So the 4 o'clock window, you only have 3 games this week. It's kind of weird. Arizona is going to Seattle in this one. Oh, Arizona opened as a 3 point favorite on the road, 50.5 point total. They're 2.5 in the contest with the same total. That market, I think it's around 3 now, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken, right? No, it's two
Yeah,
and a
two and a
half
half with
still.
juice.
So
There's
here's
some juice in some
here's
spots.
the thing. Uh, on paper, Seattle's the better team for the index, but here's a couple things I'm going to throw at you, and I'll let you chew on it. Arizona's great on the road. They don't win at
Yeah.
home for some reason. They played the Philly tough last week. They actually probably could have won or at least gone to overtime. But they played great on the road for whatever reason. Maybe they don't have what is it, War of Warcraft or Call of Duty on the road or something. But
Maybe, maybe.
we know that the Seattle offense has been pretty good, but their defense is trash. So, I can get on board with Arizona on this one if need be, especially with 2.5 instead of the 3 opener.
Yeah, I mean, certainly feels like there's going to be a lot of points in this game, right?
Hmm.
Um, I'm trying to recall the battle of hierarchy in the NFC West. Is it Arizona that has Seattle's number? It looks like it's been pretty even in this matchup,
Yeah,
both home and away. They've been splitting a lot the last couple of
right.
seasons. But I mean, I think that Arizona's going to score a ton of points. I bet their team total over already at 26, and I like the game over too, despite some downtick in the market here in the last day and a half. Looks like there's a 50 and a half available now, which I think is some value. But I'm just not sure that I can bank on the Cardinals going up there and winning this game by a field goal or more. Gino's been awesome, and the Seahawks have the number one ranked offense and number one ranked pass offense. I don't know how they're getting it done, but they're somehow putting Gino in situations where he can do what he does best, and that's an incredibly accurate quarterback throwing it to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on pinpoint
Yeah,
dimes. And I think they're going to score a lot of points too.
yeah.
So it's tough for me.
I've heard a lot of stuff about this. I think he's a timing quarterback and it's a timing system. When they brought in this
Hmm.
OC, and Russell really isn't a timing quarterback, and it just wasn't working, right? With Gino, he first of all
Hmm.
follows the offense, and secondly, when he hits that back foot, the ball's coming out. He's not jerking around, trying to run around, trying to make a play. He's throwing the ball where he's supposed to throw it, and he's being accurate with it. So I do think he'll regress as the season goes on. Maybe it's not this
Sure.
game,
Hmm.
but because I don't think Arizona's defense is that great. But I think, ironically, I think that Kingsbury wasn't ready to start the season clearly, but he's actually coaching a little bit better now. And they played good against Philly. They beat bad Carolina team the week before. I think they're actually on the upswing, but we can stay away from the game. It's all good. I can just bet on my own on the cards.
Yeah, I mean, we let's think about it some more. I definitely think that you're onto something directionally in terms of the Cardinals' road games, playing better on the
Hmm.
road. That has been a trend that we've seen the last three
Yeah.
seasons now, and coming off a tough loss against Philly, certainly feels like that Kyler Murray and the offense is going to bounce back this week against the league's worst
Yeah,
defense.
and I think this is the last week they will not have Hopkins. So,
That's right.
they'll get even better in a week or two when he gets back to
Hmm.
full strength here. Okay, let's talk about this one. Carolina going to the Rams with the change of coach. Obviously, the game opened as a 9-point favorites for the Rams at home. Now they're up to 10 in the contest. I think in the market, isn't it higher than that?
Ten and a half, but there you've seen some buyback actually, mostly 10 now.
Yeah, the
10
total is
minus oh
low,
7, juiced,
41.5.
juiced to the
What's
Panthers.
that?
It's juiced to the Panthers too in some spots.
Yeah, and that's to me, you know, it. Okay, let's start here. The Rams aren't that great this year. I was a little surprised. I thought they'd
No.
be pretty good. Maybe not win the Super Bowl, but they had the same. They're running it back besides Von Miller. But I guess Whitworth being out of there. I mean, they're missing some guys in the line. Carolina's front seven is good. They're pretty good. When
Hmm.
they played tough against teams, it's the turnovers by Baker. So PJ doesn't turn the ball over. It's a big number. 41.5 point total, 10 points. I mean, that's just too many points. So to me, it's Carolina or pass. I can't back the Rams, obviously.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I agree. This has to be a Carolina or a pass game, and I'm gonna make the case for it here because Matt Rule's fired, and now this is the classic dead cat bounce
That's
spot.
right.
Since Since 2009, interim head coaches in their first game following the head coach being fired are 17-9 against the spread with an average of 4 ATS margin. So I think that this is a spot, especially when you're going up against a Rams team that can hardly score, 26th ranked offensively and 25th with the pass, 25th with the run. I think that the Carolina defense is going to be able to hold them down a little bit. And despite their lack of pressure on the defensive line so far, rushing the passer, the Rams' offensive line has been worst in the league. They've given up 21 sacks through 5 games on Stafford.
Yeah, and I will say after this game, I think besides the San Francisco game they'll play later, this is probably the end of the run where they're playing incredible defensive lines every week, so they will get a little better. So I think this is the last game where people are like, oh my God, the Rams suck, and then we can buy back on them in the next subsequent weeks. But yeah, I love that. I forgot about the dead cat bounce. That's one of your favorites. We got to get you a T-shirt. Dead cat bounce week. I'm on it. I'm okay with Carolina plus 10, buddy.
Okay. And I think that Baker Mayfield being out of the lineup can only be a positive thing for this team as well. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that PJ Walker is going to be better, but I think it's pretty clear to me the team is not interested in playing hard for Baker any longer.
Yeah, and PJ came in and actually played decent at the end of that game. He threw the ball around a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, DJ Moore has got to be excited. I don't know why Baker couldn't get him the ball. And McCaffrey obviously. So, he could have a big game if McCaffrey, gets away from the defensive line, gets little flares out and get you running. So let's put this as an option. I like it. Okay, we got the 3 big marquee games. The 4:00 game, which shockingly is not flexed because I guess CBS wants to hold it tight, is the Bills against the Chiefs. Rematch of last year's divisional round, which was probably the best football game I've seen maybe in my life. I mean, I vaguely remember a game in the 80s that was pretty good. So the Bills open as a 3-point favorite on the road, 53.5 point total. Now in the contest it's 2.5, and that's pretty much the market for the Bills as a road favorite, 54-point total. Oh man, this is a great game to talk about action. I mean, this is the Bills are the top-rated team. I'm sure they're a top-rated team in DVOA, not even close. But giving Mahomes points at home, I mean, I heard all week, 5.5 or 5-point swing, 5.5-point swing from last year's playoff game. So, I mean, I can't go against my boy Josh Allen. I mean, he's the man. But tough spot. I mean, they've had a hell of run here. Both these teams have had tough schedules to start. I think the Bills are going to win this game, but I don't know if I have the stones to go, against KC at home. They looked ahead against the Raiders, but they were looking ahead to this game, and the Bills obviously have their revenge. So give me some thoughts. I'm all over the place here.
Yeah, I think the revenge for me is probably the place I want to start in this game because, I mean, this is pretty serious revenge.
Oh, yeah.
The Bills had that game sewn up on multiple occasions last year and let Kansas City pull out victorious. I think, if I recall, in the first game last season, in the same spot at Kansas City, it was Buffalo 2.5, plus 2.5 actually.
Yeah, they were dogs in both games, right?
All right. For some reason, I thought that Buffalo was also favored in this spot last year, but that's incorrect. So, I agree, though. I think for me, it has to be Buffalo or pass. I've witnessed and observed, and the numbers prove it out this season, that the Kansas City offense is not the same offense that it's been in years past. They're only 19th with the run, and they are third ranked offensively, but that's obviously lower than the Bills. And so on the other side, this Bills defense is the superior defense by a wide margin. And I think that is where the difference lies in this handicap, is that the Bills, despite their couple injuries in the secondary, I think the key man for them is Jordan Poyer, the safety, who is the top-rated cover safety in the league. And he is going to be sticking like glue to Travis Kelce. And I think because taking Kelce out of the game is just going to render the Kansas City offense even worse than it has been recently as well.
Well, look at the game last week. I know they're not the same teams, but the Raiders actually took away Kelce from 5 to 5, just inside the 5 or 10 yard line. They couldn't cover him. So that's going to be a strategy that the Bills are looking at. Superior defensive coaching here too. I'm okay with the Bills. I'm looking forward to the game, obviously. So.
Oh yeah. Where do you think the contest is going to go with this.
Yeah.
Obviously, I would expect it's going to be in the top five in one fashion or another. Do you think the Bills are going to be top five
You
or
know,
KC with the
it's
home dog?
very rare that this happens, but it could be one that on both sides is a popular pick, right?
True.
We've
That's
seen
true.
that
Yeah.
occasionally in these big games that you get split money down the middle and everybody's on this game because they're so excited about it and they have different ideas. But I think that it's going to be picked pretty heavily on both sides. I think a lot of the sharp guys are probably going to take the Chiefs just because, 2.5 at home,
Mm-hmm.
plus 2.5 at
Mm-hmm.
home. But the Bills are the better team. They're just a better team. And maybe it's not even a bright lights game. It's just a 4 o'clock game. But, the only thing I can say is that we talked about it maybe last time that the Bills have only won one game out of their last 8 in the last couple of seasons that are close games. They usually
Mm-hmm.
blow people out or they lose. So they
Yeah.
hopefully got over that against Baltimore and get over that bugaboo. But I think the Chiefs would probably be more likely picked than the Bills in the contest.
Yeah. One more thought. Typically in this case, Kansas City at home, 2.5 seems like an awesome classic Wong teaser to take them up. But I'm hesitant not only because of the total at 54, but the Bills' ability to just destroy their
Right.
opponents gives me some pause about just blindly putting Kansas City in teasers this week.
Right. Agreed. Agreed. And I mean, I don't have to look at it 100%, but the Bills' rush defense is very good too, right? Because the Chiefs have been running the ball pretty good.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay. Let's highlight the Bills. 2 more games. You got the Cowboys against the Eagles. This is obviously a battle for the, NFC East right now. The winner will, I mean, they'll both be in first if they split, but whatever. It's still, Eagles are undefeated right now, playing Dallas at home in the Sunday night spot. 5-point favorite on the opener. They're up to 6 in that contest. 43-point total down to 42. I think right now the market says 6.5. It's a little
Yep,
interesting, but
concur.
here's my take. I think the Cowboys have a great defense, and I love them. I'm very excited to see them. At some point, Cooper Rush is going to run into a better team, and I think that's this team. 6 points is a lot, though. I can't back the Eagles here, but I'm happy to stay
Hmm.
away, as we talked about before. But I think this is the one where Cooper Rush not just loses the game, but it might be a rough one for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the I've been hearing all week in terms of injuries for this game about the Eagles' offensive line
Okay.
injuries. And 3 out of 5 went down
Oh, wow.
last week in Arizona. But it does sound like the center Kelsey and Simwalo, the guard, and even another offensive lineman are trending
Yeah.
upwards, and all got in full practices today. So having them out there is obviously going to be key against probably the best defensive line in the league.
Is
Um,
Micah
and
Parsons going to
so
play? I know he was on the injury report.
Parsons groin DMP full practice today
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
So it looks like he's going to be out there, and same with Demarcus Lawrence on the other side. So I mean, it looks like it's fire up on both sides of the ball, and that should make for an awesome
Yeah.
game. I I'm with you. I don't want to get behind Dallas. I think it's for me it's Eagles or
Hmm.
pass. At this number though, it makes it a little bit trickier because it is a classic NFC East rivalry.
Yep.
And so I think we're probably better off passing this game. I'm going to have a strong look to the under, though, just Sunday Night Football, divisional game. I think that it's going to be played really tight on both sides of the ball, and both of them have really good
Right.
defenses. So that's one way I'm going to look in this game.
Right. I mean, it's hard to pass on the divisional road dog angle that we've done all season, right? Mine's,
Yeah.
+6 on the road, but it's fine to pass on this one and let my coworkers in Camden cheer on the Eagles against Dallas and the boys. All right, last game is Monday night. You've got Denver going against the Chargers. The Chargers open as a 6-point favorite at home. Now it's 4.5 in the contest. The total is stagnant at 45.5. I don't know, man. Look, we talked about the Broncos are really tough to back. I mean, they're just this offense
Yeah.
is kind of broken. Russell isn't playing well, but man, the Chargers never can cover numbers, dude. I can't do it, man. 4.5 is actually over. I think I put this game at like 2 or 3. And again, divisional road dog. You got to go with Denver if you look at the numbers, but it's hard for me to back Denver right now in any spot.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to touch Denver with the 10-foot pole. especially with the way that Hackett's been coaching this team. I think it really makes it hard to put your money behind them. And Russell Wilson has been awful.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to explain it. The pudginess or his unwillingness. I don't know what it is, but on several occasions on Thursday night, he could have easily run for first down, and he just refuses to do
Yeah.
so. And without that dynamic ability in his game, he obviously can't hit receivers either. So I'm not sure how Denver is going to be able to score in this game. And on the other side, they have a great defense, so I'd expect that they're going to be able to hold the Chargers back a little bit, and it's going to be a back and forth game, but not one I want a part of.
Yeah. Well, let's just stay away. Make it easy.
Yeah,
Stay away from those primetime games. We can just enjoy
agree.
them.
Yeah.
Well, let's review some of these picks here. Let's see. We definitely like the 49ers plus 5.5 or minus 5.5 on the road at Atlanta. We will talk about the Ravens minus 5.5 on the road at the Giants. We love the Jets plus 7 at the Pack in Lambeau. Definitely like the Pats plus 2.5 on the road at the Browns. And then in some of the later games, we talked about Arizona minus 2.5 at Seattle, Carolina plus the 10 at the Rams, and then we'll consider the Bills minus 2.5 on the road at Kansas City. A lot of road games here. We like road teams this week, actually.
Yeah, right. That's true. I don't hate it, though. I think we got some good picks here. A couple of green ones. All road teams, you're right.
Yeah. Well, let's give the contest update. We went 2-2-1 last week, which seemed not great at the time, especially once Green Bay dropped the ball. I was like sweating it already, but it puts us at 15-9-1 for the season, which is solid, and we really didn't move anywhere in the contest. It's 737th now because the top dogs came down. The 21-4 is the top record. There's 3 at the top, and 18-6-1 at the top 100. So we're really just that kind of 3 picks back at this moment. So I think we're sitting pretty, actually, to be honest with you. Actually, we're doing okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, looks like a lot of treading water last week. So it was a really hard week. And I think have every expectation that we're going to bounce back and get right back on track here, week 6.
Yeah, if we get another, 3-2, 4-1 week, we'll be right there and fighting. Maybe not for the quarter, but we'll see. It's exciting stuff. And then what are you up to this weekend? Are you going to be watching games? No more trips out of town?
No, not that I'm aware of. I have to look at my calendar. Marcus, my brother-in-law, is coming to visit tomorrow, so we'll be hanging out with him. Probably watch football together. Maybe get out, check out a cider mill, do some rock climbing at a new gym that we discovered.
Nice.
How about you?
We got the Shockers game with Tommy at the Q tomorrow. Tomorrow night, of going away party with the volleyball girls, and then Saturday a birthday party, and then it's the Chicago International Film Festival. Actually, I'm not sure if you've ever attended, but my nephew's a film student. We're going to check out one of the movies Sunday night, and it runs through the 21st, I think. So I'll probably check it out one more time next week too. So looking forward to it.
Cool.
All right. Well, hey everybody, follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter. Follow the podcast at Side Action Podcast on Instagram. Follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
All right. Good luck, everybody.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made. As the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.